Push the button. All right, looking right here for me. Fantastic.
Rearranging my face. Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local makers and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, author of the Localist book and former small business owner, Carrie Rollwagen. So today I wanted to talk about hiring a business consultant. So this is something that I always felt was kind of out of reach for me, that this would be something like, eventually when I have several businesses, maybe I'll hire a consultant like this. And you can look at it like that, but a business advisor can be somebody who can come with you, meet weekly and come to meetings and things like that. But you can also hire someone for just a couple of hours to kind of look over your business, look over your trajectory, or even your career if it's not specifically your business, and can kind of give you a lot of insight and help from there. So this is a lot more in reach than a lot of people think. And it can be for bigger businesses as well, but even for a small business like a mom and pop, or even for me, because the Localist is really more of a personal brand than it is a kind of business right now. So it still is helpful to me to hire a consultant to kind of help me with that. A consultant can do a few different things. One, it can be a really good sounding board, which I know a lot of us who own small businesses tend to use our staff members as a sounding board, or maybe our family and friends. And that is fine, but also they're bringing their own perspectives to the table. So it's nice to have a business advisor who can kind of be a sounding board that's kind of like a neutral advisor. A business advisor can also just give you perspective. They're bringing their own experience and their own things that they've studied to the table, so they can help give different perspective on things. And they can also help you make new connections between ideas that you already have. So a lot of the things that my experience with a business advisor did were things that I had kind of already worked on, but she was able to look at this, all of these things that I had written down, and connect different ideas that I had, different projects I have, and kind of help me to see how I could combine them differently. So at the end of last year, I had kind of my second, experience with a business advisor. I'd hired the same person a couple of years ago. Her name's Emily Wells. We'll link to her podcast because she's actually been on the podcast before. So she actually came on the Localist podcast first. And right after we did that episode, I asked her to do some business consulting for me. And that was really, really helpful. And so at the end of last year, I was really wanting to refocus again. So I asked her if we could sit down again. And this was just such a wonderful experience. In just one meeting, in just a couple hours of time, she really helped me get more perspective, see more where I was, look at the goals that I was going after, and seeing if they really aligned with the things that I was saying that I wanted to do. And some of them didn't. She also helped me to see that there were some goals that I thought were really far in the future that I was actually closer to than I thought. And she sort of helped me have that perspective that as I've been working for the past few years to get closer to these things, now I am closer to them. So I can kind of have a different strategy because I'm closer to the goal line, I guess, than I thought that I was. So that was really encouraging as well. So I didn't change a lot about what I was actually doing, but she really helped me to see how I could take things I was already doing, like the Localist podcast, like my social media, and kind of make sure I was gearing it toward where I really want to go. And I found that incredibly useful. And it was really a pretty small investment, both of time and of money, for how useful it was. And I want to give you some tips on how to get the most out of that meeting if you are going to meet with a business advisor. But before that, I want to tell you about my second business advisor meeting. So after I had that meeting with Emily, I actually scheduled a meeting that was only about my website. So I scheduled that with Pam Sanderson, who is who works here at Infomedia. So it was pretty easy for me to schedule, but it's actually easy for any of our clients. Any Infomedia client is easy to schedule a meeting with Pam. And if you're not a client, you can also schedule that. So essentially what I told Pam is I wanted to do an audit of my website. I love my website. I think it looks great, but it was built a few years ago, and I just wanted to make sure that it was still aligning with my goals. And also I wanted to make sure it was aligning with the new goals that I set with Emily. Pam and I went through my site, and it was just so helpful for me to do. And I look at websites all the time. Like, that is my job, to assess websites. But even then, even having somebody who could come in as an outside consultant and give me that perspective was super helpful. For example, I used to focus a lot on blogging because I used to be a freelance writer, and I really was trying to build up all of that writing and all of that blogging. And she was able to say, like, hey, you've done what you needed to do with blogging. Like, she asked me what my goals were for the website. And I was like, my real goal is just to be able to be found for my name. And if people are looking for me, that they're going to land on this site. And she was like, well, Carrie, people are going to do that anyway. You have over a decade of domain authority on this site. I have a pretty unique name. And she's like, most people are not fighting for the name Carrie Rollwagen, so you're probably going to win that. And she was like, you already have fresh content on your website every week because you're putting up a new podcast. So she's like, maybe you want to focus less on blogging and more on social media, so you're promoting the things you're already doing. Well, that lined up perfectly with my goals, but it really helped me because I had been feeling guilty that I was so behind on my blog. And so she did give me some strategies, which I haven't put in place yet. So don't judge me if you go to the website. But she gave me some strategies for making the blog like still there and still prominent, but not to be needed, not to where it needed to be updated so much. And that was really helpful. She also gave me some ideas for kind of reorganizing my navigation and just kind of like refreshing my content to be more the kind of thing that I'm going toward now. And I think with both of these meetings, it's important to know that I still have the same business. Still have the same brand, and I still have mostly the same goals. This wasn't like I was changing my brand entirely, but it was kind of like recalibrating and kind of pivoting just a little bit more toward like the areas that I've sort of drifted toward over the years. And I think that's true of any business. Like, our goals do change a little bit. Like, the world is changing, tech is changing, so they should be changing. So I just found this super helpful to meet with a couple of different advisors and say, just having like an outside source to say, hey, have you thought about this way? Or, a lot of things I just been like going down the path for so long that I wasn't even asking myself, am I still supposed to be on this path? So it was helpful to have somebody come behind me and kind of ask me questions, give me advice, and just be another perspective. Okay, so how did I get the most out of these meetings? Because again, like, the Localist is a personal brand for me. It's not a business that makes a lot of money. So I don't have thousands of dollars to pour into business advisor meetings. And it is an investment. Most of the time, if you meet with an advisor, it's going to be at least a couple $100s. So here are my tips for making the most out of that meeting. First of all, just prepare before you're actually meeting. That seems obvious, but I think the instinct is like, well, I'm paying this person, so like I'll just go and sit there and just kind of like, I want to find a word that's not word vomit, but I can't think of one. So I'll just say that, like, just ramble and say all of the things that I want to say. But really, it was so helpful to me to take some time ahead of time. So what I actually had when I met with Emily was what I call a mind map, which is really, I just have like a kind of a constellation of all of the different pieces of my brand. So I have like the podcast, the Localist book, my blog, any products or anything like that. Like, just kind of actually make a physical map of all of those things. And I just like made that in Canva. It's just a bunch of circles. So that Emily could see all of the things that I had going on, so she could kind of have an at a glance view of what we were even talking about. So then when we sat down, she did have me go through it and we talked through what each of them were, but it wasn't me just kind of like rambling and not making any sense. Like, that was more of a 15-minute review. And then we could really get down into what we were talking about that day. The same with Pam. I had some ideas for the things on my site that I knew I was struggling with, that I knew weren't working, and walking into that meeting knowing what was going on with my brand and my website at the time, and also knowing what I wanted to get out of those things was extremely helpful. Okay, next, choose someone who understands your business. Emily is a wonderful, I think, business advisor, but she wouldn't be the perfect business advisor for every single thing. She was perfect for me because she's done a lot of branding and she understands personal brands. She does this for herself as well. And I was able to see, because of her portfolio and because of also the way she presents herself online, that she really lined up with the things that I wanted out of my brand. So that's one of the reasons I chose her. We have a good rapport and things like that, but really I could see that she knows the business that I'm trying to be in. Like when I had Pam look at my site, Pam is a website expert. She understands my brand. She understands what I'm going for. And so we have a good rapport that way. So don't just find just any business consultant. Find a business consultant who has a proven track record in the kind of business you're creating and that you do have some kind of like a good rapport with as well. And then finally, I'd say make notes as you're talking and save those notes. So most of the time, a good advisor will send you some kind of recap of what you talked about. And honestly, the more you pay, the more you should expect that kind of thing. But I also find it's really helpful to jot notes down while we're talking. And I also know this from the last time I met with Emily, that making those notes and then typing them and kind of thinking about them again, reorganizing them, is actually a really important part of the process for me, because it helps me to review these things, to not forget what she said, to kind of give my own perspective on it. And then in addition to making the notes, I also went ahead and made calendar events for myself for each quarter to review the notes that I made from my meeting with Emily and the meeting that I had with Pam. So as a business, like when I work with Infomedia, for example, we have quarterly meetings where we have like an entire day that we take and we go over our goals and we see how we're doing and all of that. I don't do that for my own personal brand, but it is good to take at least a couple hours, maybe half a day, and kind of review these things. So it helps to have like a calendar invite. And then I just went ahead and linked to the actual documents with the notes, so I don't have to worry about remembering this later. The calendar event will come up for me. The notes will be right there, and then I can help kind of review those as we go. So I hope this has been helpful to kind of hopefully demystify the idea of working with a business advisor, to kind of show you a little bit of what the process is like, and then also to show you how you can get the absolute most out of it. Because I do think no matter your business, investing in this maybe once a year, maybe even once every couple of years, can really be a game changer and can also be really validating to show you the ways that you are on the right course. So I think it can be really helpful, and I hope you'll give it a try. The Localist is written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagen. We record right here at Infomedia Studios, and Infomedia is also our podcast sponsor. So if you're interested in podcasting, making videos, or having photos taken for your business, or even taking a video and carving it up into reels or social media content, we want to help you with that. To get started, just go to infomedia.com and fill out our contact form, and we'll do the rest. We'll meet with you and we'll advise you on that business. And also, if you're interested in meeting with Pam as a business advisor, that's exactly the same process as well. I have a whole team here at The Localist that helps me put this together. Our showrunner is Taylor Davis. Jen Tucker is our outreach manager. And Elena Harmond is our marketing and promotions manager. So until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local and putting small shops before big box.